Welcome to Game Trailers, a film study. This is going to be the best panel before the Proto Men, so I'm glad you're here. So welcome, my name is Tori Sharp, and I will be talking about video game trailers in the vein of looking at them technically, so through an editor's eye, and not necessarily, I love this game, I'm going to automatically love the trailer, which is kind of the gut reaction, but then once you see it, trailers a second time or a third time, then you can start looking for the technical things. So what makes it a really good trailer? Why did you immediately love it? So what is this talk about? We're going to talk about all sorts of cool stuff. So we're going to talk about cuts and what is a cut. And the different types of cuts that you see in sorts of trailers and also in other moving media, so things like movies, TV shows, things like that. These all kind of transcend not just video game trailers. In addition to that, we'll be talking about different types of transitions. There's auditory and visual, if you did not know. We'll be seeing some selected trailers that I've picked that have really strong editing skills and kind of have a, what is the thing that made me like it the most? Like, what is the one technique or two techniques that it really outshined? We'll talk about how to analyze a trailer and just kind of get into that mindset. A little more on that, breaking it down on the technical side, like I've been saying. We'll talk about some resources, so like post-presentation, post-mag, once the real world starts again, you can look into some resources, and we figured it out.
Okay. I was going to tell you that there's no one at Tech Ops.
Cool.
Sounds like you got a good job.
Well, thanks. I'll see you Monday. But and then we'll have a Q&A. And I would be super great and super awesome if you could stick around for that too. So, what is a cut? You might have seen it millions of times at this point, and you might have not have known what it is. So it is a way that two shots, like I said, TV shows, movies, video game trailers, are joined together. It's called a cut because back in the old days, when they shot more movies with film, or just film in general, they would literally cut the film, the plastic, and tape them together. They'll splice them and tape it together to create a movie, to create a film reel. In modern times, editing is done with nonlinear digital programs, and we'll be talking about some of those a little later on in the program as well. So first kind of act one of this is different editing techniques and talking about different cuts. So one of the most basic ones is cutting on action. So this is when you cut from one shot to another while your subject, either that be an object, your character, characters, are in motion. So in this GIF from John Wick Chapter 3, you see in the first shot, he scoots back because a knife is about to hit a very special area. And then it cuts to another shot that's behind as he's scooting back. And then it cuts back to the other way while he's throwing it so you can see where the knife is going. The cutaway. So this is a shot that's inserted into a longer shot. These are used for emphasis about an object. It can cue the passing of time or kind of get inside of character's head with things like flashbacks or memories. So in 2002 Spider-Man, we have him looking at all these masks, and then it's getting closer and uncomfortably close to his face. And he's kind of about to go through this thing. If you haven't seen Spider-Man, I'm assuming everybody has at least 10 times in this room. So the crosscut. So this is a very interesting technique where you have back and forth shots between two different actions or sequences that are occurring at the same time. Usually you use this type of technique to create suspense or drama, but can also invoke deeper meanings and metaphors. So in the original Godfather, this is a very famous scene, if you haven't seen the movie, where he's attending a baptism of a little baby, celebrating new life. and forgiveness and things like that. But in addition, or alongside of that, while that he is attending that, there is a mass killing raid happening. Death, life, rebirth, those metaphor things I was talking about. The invisible cut. So this is used a lot of the times, especially now in modern movies and trailers and TV, that type of thing. It is a hidden transition used to connect shots together. So this usually is used to make a sequence look like one continuous take or a long shot. So we have this clip from Birdman back in 2014 where he's walking around in his underwear. I apologize. Should have put a not safe for work tag on there, but it's 8:30, you know. Everything's wild. But I don't know, yeah. Depending on where you are, I guess. So the camera pans down to the ground, and you'll notice that he walks out of frame, and right there, where you don't see any feet, would be a cut, where you can get to or place in another take. The whole point, if you haven't seen this movie, is that it's supposed to look like and supposed to appear and feel like it's just one long take of kind of the rise and fall of Birdman. Jump cuts. So a jump cut is cutting a long action or a long sequence into shorter, palpable cuts and clips. A lot of montages use this, and also emphasizes the passing of time. If you ever see any YouTube video with someone talking, it is full of jump cuts. A lot of times you'll use this to edit out ums, pauses, likes, as in the filler, or things that the YouTuber just wanted to cut out of it. This scene is from the Royal Tenenbaums. He had a big flop of hair that he cut, and then he starts to trim his beard, and stuff happens right immediately after that. So, match cut. These are two shots put together that have the same or similar compositions. So in this little GIF from The Frighteners from 1996, this woman is shooting or aiming a gun at the dark, and then when she flips around to shoot, it's in the daytime. But she's in the same position of the frame. It isn't 100% perfect, but it's pretty damn close. You can also use these to quickly jump in time. A lot of very famous movies use match cuts to kind of progress through the time. If anyone has seen 2001: A Space Odyssey, that is the most famous match cut where the apes, or one of the apes, throws a bone up and it's flipping, doing some 360 Tony Hawks all the way down, and then it cuts to millions of years later with a spaceship. All right. So another editing technique is the montage. Montage as a film theory started in Soviet Russia. It was a film technique that pieced together film to form meanings and elicit emotions, which is kind of what movies still do. For their purposes, way back in the day, back in the early or mid to late 20th century, it was mainly used for propaganda to make them have a more nationalist look about their country. So there are different types of montages. The first one is metric. So shots that are cut to a specific number of frames, regardless what is happening in the shot. They could be the director and the editor combination, thinking, okay, every shot needs to be 28 frames. And so no matter what is going on, each cut is 28 frames. The kind of same but different is rhythmic montage. So these are shots that are cut to music, sound effects, or actions on the screen. In modern times, we call this editing on beat for editing to music, things like that. Tonal montage is putting two or more shots that have similar thematic meanings to reinforce and elicit emotional response. So having pictures of flowers and sunny day and bright imagery can make you feel calm. Those are very similar meanings, universal meanings that we've developed. Overtonal is the combination of all three of those. So putting them all in one and in a long sequence. And then intellectual is putting two unrelated images to create a third idea in your mind, idea or metaphor. So for Soviet montage theory, there was a teacher at their most famous film school called Kuleshov, and this is called the Kuleshov effect, where they put the image of a famous Russian actor with an object, and they played that to audience to figure out what the actor was thinking. So when they showed a shot of an apple, then his face, people thought, oh, he's hungry. When they showed his face, and then a woman, and then his face again, they thought, ooh, I think he likes her. But the thing is, it was the same shot on both of those. It wasn't any different. He was just looking blankly. It was that middle shot that was influencing the response. So that was a lot of explanation, a lot of words. So let's start watching some stuff. Overtonal montage, like I said, is the combination of our metric, rhythmic, and tonal. So if you have ever seen The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly from 1966, the final duel is one of the classic examples of overtonal montage. Three men have been going through this journey trying to find treasure and make it big, and they end up in this cracked desert circle surrounded by a graveyard. They look at each other in anticipation, who's going to draw their gun first. It's a pretty good movie. All three of them are, but. Now, let's see. Okay, so some more editing techniques, so visual transitions, getting from one cut to the next more interestingly, rather than just having them two shots together like that. First one is dissolves, cross dissolves, things like that. So these are, or this is a technique where you're changing the opacity and the visibility of a clip and overlapping it with one another. This is used to show the passing of time and visually link together objects, actions, or characters. So in this clip from Inherent Vice, he's talking about his past, about this woman, and it crosses off to her, to a conversation that they were having. Environmental transitions. So this is having the objects or characters in the immediate foreground, moving from one side of the screen to the other to transition to the next shot. If you have or have not seen Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, it is an excellent movie for transitions, besides the story and things like that. It's very interesting development of that because it's based off a comic book. They really enforce that with their transitions and motion graphics. Next are fades, so fading into black or fading out from black. We mainly use these transitions to get to another setting, another location, or a lot of the times they use it to simulate someone waking up. Fading a shot to black and then fading into another can also indicate the passing of time. You might have noticed that a lot of these can show the passing of time, but it just really depends on what feels right for your trailer or whatever that you are editing, using your dissolves or fades or things like that. An iris transition. So this was originally an in-camera effect done by opening and closing the iris of the lens. So physically, an in-camera effect of closing out on somebody and then opening it back up. In modern times, it's used for nostalgic reasons or to focus a subject that's in the frame, like this right here. Yeah. Wipes. So involves one shot replacing the previous one by traveling from one side of the frame to the other. That is a very weird explanation of Star Wars transitions. If you're using wipes other than Star Wars, I call it a high risk, high rewards situation, just because the original Star Wars is so well, and the franchise itself is so well known for their transitions. They can kind of get away with it and it still looks awesome. More wipes. So if you've ever seen a little movie called Rocky Horror, they kind of have their own transitions. You can see that they have four corners, like a curtain, a book opening, a question mark. They go all out on it. So editing techniques for auditory transitions. So what we call an L cut and a J cut. And they're called that just because what they look like in your editing program or in the film if you are editing film physically. So audio in an L cut, the audio from a previous shot is heard into the next shot. So the audience sees the next shot but still hearing the previous shot's audio. And you can tell right here, the audio with the waveforms right there are in green. You see that extending out, but our visual clips that are in purple right here, it's already, the next shot is already started. And then basically a J cut is the reverse of that. So the audio from the next scene starts before it cuts to it, and the audience hears what's going on before they see what's going on. And same thing, the audio is a little bit ahead of the visual right here. All right, so let's watch some trailers. I know, got through all the boring stuff. So here's your criteria that I chose these things from. So they're chosen solely for their strengths in editing techniques. And in addition to that, they're the emotional response they give the audience or what they're trying to give the audience. And I only included modern games from 2005 on, just to make it a little easier on my search. What isn't taken into account? How well loved or hated a game or franchise is. Sometimes you just got to put that away. to think about something more critically, to see what it really is without all of that fandom baggage, I guess. But in addition to that, I also didn't consider or take into account if a trailer lied or the gameplay's different. They put whatever company or whatever game, they put that trailer out to sell that game. And if you bought it and then you saw that the gameplay didn't match, they still got your money. Lastly, these are listed in mostly alphabetical order, and I'll tell you why there's that mostly interjection. But yeah, no top 10 Watch Mojo lists here. There's no number one or anything. These all excel at their certain criterias. So the first one is 2011's Dead Island trailer, and why it makes the list. Cross-cutting, so having those two sequences that are playing at the same time, and this trailer and with cross-cutting, cutting back and forth to them. So what's going on? A little elevator speech about it. It's a zombie attack shown in two sequences simultaneously played in reverse and in real time. So a too long didn't read of the trailer before we watch it. It is a trailer that has an emotional instrumental track with slow motion visuals for the reverse sequence, so the playing of events in reverse. When it cuts to the real time playing in non-reverse, it's normal speed, and that's the only time when you hear sound effects and growls and things like that. The two sequences collide, and then it fades to black to the game's title, into a montage series of clips of the happy family starting their vacation.
Peggy 18.
Whistle indeed. Yeah. So Google Slide's going to do this thing where I have to exit every time, but it's okay. So the next one is 2006 first Gears of War trailer. So why it makes the list, it's pretty iconic, even if you have or haven't played the game. Iconic visuals and musical pairing. So it's a sequence of a city in the middle of being attacked and overrun by creatures. So it has a cover of Mad World, Bungary Jewels. It plays while there's panning shots of the city's destruction. It cuts to a soldier reflecting on the destruction, literally in a pool of water, and runs off to continue fighting off invaders. So the trailer ends on the song's title with a visual of a huge creature and then fading to the game's title. Kind of another interesting thing about this, that there's no sound effects are heard throughout this. It's just visuals of the game and then the song.
Worn out places, worn out faces. Hide my head, I wanna drown my sorrow. No tomorrow, no tomorrow. And I find it kinda funny, I find it kinda sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad world. Mad world.
I know that song is more meme-y nowadays, but just imagine 2006 for a second. Next one is Grease from 2018. Why it makes the list is it's a very excellent example of showing more than telling. So showing what's happening rather than having in a world, explaining everything. So what's generally going on in this trailer? It's a woman traveling through different landscapes and environments. The breakdown, a heart-wrenching instrumental track starts after the woman realizes that she can't speak. She falls into a cracking stone hand, and it fades into the studio's name, and it cuts to different worlds the main character is traveling through. About halfway through, the game mechanics are shown as she continues to travel, and at the very end, we see her confronted with a shape-shifting force that overtakes her. Okay, so next one on our list is 2009's Halo 3 ODST. Why it makes the list is for its amazing use of match cuts, and something that you don't really see a lot in video game trailers. It's a live action trailer. It has real people in it. It isn't gameplay or like solely gameplay. So what's generally going on is a live action sequence of a soldier's military experience and training. So the breakdown, a young man attends the funeral of a fallen ODST soldier. A Welsh song begins as an officer starts a gun salute. While the camera is on the young man's face, it match cuts to him going through rigorous training and several military missions in his career. The trailer ends with another young man's face with the words, "We are ODST," and then the game's title.
Rated M for mature.
Can you guys hear that? Can we? It's all the way. Yeah. Here, can you guys check that? 'Cause it even sounds low for me up here.
T-shirts!
Right of line Ranu Flundi heni orvidi gal an verilasi right of line ranun yonagwe bodai vigoduni.
Sorry, when we increase the volume, it's the loudest one. Okay. So the next one is Papers, Please from 2013. We're getting a little more into the indie side of things, just to make it a little more relevant or onto scale of people that are in this room. So why it makes the list. It has harmonious audio and visuals that match and give you the same feeling. And also it has great editing on beat with that rhythmic montage that I was talking about earlier. So it's basically about a day in the life of a border inspector in a turbulent country. So the trailer includes, the first thing you see is a line formed at a border inspection. The booth calls next, and the title comes on the screen as droning music starts. And so it's the start of this monotonous day of an inspector denying and improving entry. But later on, an insurgent runs from the crowd and throws a bomb over the border, across the border. This results in tighter security and faster document checking, all while the music is matching that and quickening in pace as well. I love the tagline, dystopian document thriller. So the next one we're going to go to is why I said mostly in alphabetical order. I'm going to hurt your eyes for a little bit. Why this makes a list is because it belongs in the bad place. This trailer has 4 adults having a fun and flirty game night. And the editing for it is very subpar. It's just cuts. There's no fades or dissolves or anything interesting technically. So what happens is 2 men and women step away from a meal to the couch as a funky pop track starts. They all pick up their Wiimotes from the table, and the brunette woman clicks it to the viewer, and it cuts to gameplay footage of 2 avatars eating a floating apple on the TV. A man and a woman copy those same motions, and it turns into a montage sequence of them pairing off and doing these challenges. The fun thing is, if you haven't heard of this game, it's for a reason. It was never released in the United States, and you're about to maybe see why. Whoop. Oh, spoilers. I have so much apologies in advance. I'm sorry.
You tell me what you want is a little bit of money, and I'm sure that's true, but I'll tell you something, honey. I got love and that'll make you feel just as high. You see, my friend,
Why indeed?
doesn't matter where he goes, but he always has a laugh. He watches the good times flow. It's the love in his heart and the smile on his face that sets him right. If you could see that, babe, there's more to life. Strange though it seems in the stage that you're in tonight. Like a magic show, watch me come and go. It's a fairy tale, that's how you want to see me. I can make you cry just to let you find back the face to see. Every way you turn, you make me see me riding in the corner of your fantasy, a living dream. Cause every time I think it's up a broken dream, but you're my everything. I love the story of 1 and 2, but you always find me when you see.
I see a lot of horrified faces in it. And so it's this for like 20 seconds, so I'm going to stop it. Yeah. Once again, why indeed? So, palette cleanser. Let's talk about another really good trailer. So, this is for an indie game called Savior. It is not released yet. It is currently in development. Their Kickstarter edit ended in September, so only a few months ago. And this is why it makes a list. It's editing on beat. Not necessarily the cuts, but also the movement of the characters intertwined with that editing as well in those cuts. So what's generally going on, as far as we know, because the game isn't released, is this war on a religious influence that has taken over this area, and those who threaten it don't last too long. So the trailer opens on a battlefield, bodies everywhere. A woman's voice speaks about how myth has risen to power and whoever questions it is eliminated. As she speaks, a woman is taken away from her family. The same woman, now wielding a staff and clothes change, start to enlist others for a resistance movement. The trailer cross-cuts to her fighting off followers, or getting followers of this myth or this influence and soldiers who enforce it, and her being sentenced to death and falling to the earth.
Our world is splintered by myth. It is a shield against the unknown, and those who threaten that shield are banished.
We are the chosen. Unquestioning faith is our salvation.
Some defiant few resist from the shadows, but time has come for a champion to rise up and reunite this shattered world.
Doubt is disease that must be expelled.
For centuries, our lights have been taken and thrown into the dark. And there, in the depths, together, free from superstition and fear, those lights have grown bright. Find the fallen. Find the truth. Free us all.
Again. So, the last trailer that I want to talk about is the Breath of the Wild, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild trailer. The first trailer that they launched, there was a couple of them. And why this makes the list, it has a really great balance between showcasing lore. Granted, Legend of Zelda had, a lot of us maybe in this room, if not a lot of the video game community, know a lot of Zelda lore. But this is kind of, if you've played it, it's very different and it plays different than a lot of Zelda games. So it has a really good balance of showcasing this new lore-ish, newish lore, environments and the gameplay mechanics that are new to this and new to the franchise. What's generally going on, if you were to describe this trailer without knowing anything, it's kind of like a slice of life look into an awakened adventurer. What happens in the trailer is a woman calls out to open your eyes. It fades into long shots of landscapes showing different biomes and wildlife. The weather turns turbulent and cuts to black as the woman pleads again to open your eyes. It fades into a man running off a cliff and flying down. The trailer starts following him and his adventures in hunting, cooking, and combat. As the music swells, the cuts quicken to reveal all the enemies that exist in this world.
Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Wake up, Link.
Okay. So, how to look and analyze a game trailer. This is kind of what the process that I did. This isn't an absolute or you need to do this or you're not doing it right or anything like that. This is just something to kind of get you thinking in that way. Figure out what type of game trailer it is. If it doesn't say launch trailer, teaser trailer, 2019, things like that. Each type of trailer has their own characteristics, but also a lot of similarities. So a teaser trailer, a launch trailer, gameplay trailer, or a Kickstarter or crowdfunding trailer. What is the trailer showcasing? Is it the lore? Is it the environments, the gameplay, gameplay footage? Is it the mechanics? Is there cinematics? Things like that. And does the trailer balance these well? Is it so mechanic heavy that you're like, okay, I get it, but what is it really about other than fighting? Or vice versa. There's so much swooping environment landscape shots. I don't know, is this just a life simulator? I don't know what's going on. How is it edited? Things that we talked about before, cross-cuts and montages and match cuts, things like that. Does it have a varied clips in style and in length? Are there long shots? Are there close-ups, panning shots, things like that? Is it edited on beat to music or sound or songs? Does it have slow-mo or sped-up footage? What is the trailer highlighting the most? So, strange new worlds, badass mechanics, grandiose cinematics, kind of like I was saying before, was it trying to sell to you? Any interesting transitions or cuts? Are there any jarring cuts that kind of feel off? Are there, is it using each type of transition properly? Is it using well? Is it using it too much? There is a thing as too many cross dissolves, my friends. It gets a lot. And does the trailer do these things successfully in that vein? So the types of trailers that you can see, teaser trailers, they're usually short and sweet, about a minute long. These give the audience just a taste of what the game is about. It's just to kind of get you excited for it. Launch trailers, usually about 1 to 3 minutes. There's always outliers to these, but it showcases the lore and the environments and game mechanics. It also includes gameplay footage from the engine itself or cinematics. Gameplay trailers can be varied in length. It highlights the gameplay and the game mechanics, and it sprinkles a little lore into it. It's just trying to show you all the cool new stuff. And crowdfunding trailers can be varied in length as well, and it also just depends on the campaign. Usually, or sometimes, a crowdfunding trailer can showcase everything about the game to entice pledges or include behind the scenes and production footage just to kind of say, hey, look at all this hard work that we're doing and we can't do it without you. We can't continue without you. Some editing resources. So there's a whole bunch of video editing programs out there that if you did want to kind of start looking at this or maybe cutting your own trailers or cutting trailers that exist to make them better, there are programs like Adobe Premiere Pro, Final Cut Pro X, Avid, Vegas Pro, iMovie, DaVinci Resolve Studio and DaVinci Resolve, Caden Live, and Shotcut. And some of these, the last 3 are free that you can use, and you don't have to pay out of pocket for anything. A brief list of audio editing programs that you can use. There's Adobe Audition, Audacity, which is free, Reaper, and Traction that has free and paid versions. And many of these softwares have free trials. As long as you have an email, you have a free trial. Some hosting resources, if you have something and you want to get it out there. Crowdfunding sites, like I said, things like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, GoFundMe, Patreon, YouTube, which is where all these clips were from. Other sites include Vimeo, Facebook, Instagram TV, IGTV, Dailymotion, things like that. And here's some external resources that I use to help me with this talk and some kind of further look or further research on your part. And I know we're at 9:26. We're doing okay. But thank you guys so much for coming and listening. If you have any questions, let me know. But thank you and have a great night.